What's going on, everybody? Today I got a deck profile for you that I won my locals with last night. This is the green Vegeta and Bobbity leader from set 11. It's a very aggressive deck, very aggressive leader. Got this alt art card made by Joey Dixon, the one and only. Highly recommend his work. See him on the Facebook group. Buy his stuff. So to get into it, the leader has Overlord. Once per turn, you can put a battle card with Servant at the bottom of the deck. And then when he attacks, you can take a life, draw a card, and he gets +5 and double strike for the turn. And he awakens at 5 or less, untaps 2. Front side also has Overlord once per turn. And this side he has to activate main to take a life, draw a card, give him +5k and double strike, as opposed to the front side where you're doing it on attack. So even if you awaken at 5, swing with your leader, awaken, you can still do the activate main to get more cards in hand and to put more cards under your field spell. Go under that when we get to it. The activate main here for 1 green, you may look at the bottom card of your deck. If it's a Vegeta, energy cost of 3 or less, Servant skill, you can play it. Otherwise, put it back at the bottom. And we'll be abusing that effect too. So, alright, let's get into the list. Start off, we're running 2 Hatch, 4 Bobbity, and 3 Majin Quickening. This is our starter for the deck. We need to open at least one of these. Hatchiak's probably your best card to open. It helps you thin your deck the most. But ultimately, seeing any of these 3 in the beginning will help you get your game plan going. You're going to be set for success. Ultimately, you want the field card out. And the field card says that whenever you take a life, you take the top card of your deck, put it underneath. When you have 4 cards at least under it, you can have 5, 6, whatever. As long as you have 4, on your turn, activate main, you can put it drop, put everything under it in the drop, and then you can play a 3-cost Majin Buu from your deck or your drop. And we'll go over those targets in a second. Bobbity here, he can grab this card out of the deck. So if you play this guy turn 1, he can search the deck for this card. And this card, you can pay 1 to discard it, which will search your deck for this card, which will play this card. So paying 1 for this essentially gets you down 2 extra cards in your deck, helps thin you out. And thinning the deck is a very important game plan for the deck. And let's see here, Bobbity also has another effect that he can look at top 7 and grab some Vegeta with Servant. So we're running 2 Vegetas that you can grab with this guy's effect also. So that's how we start the game plan. You always need to see that turn 1. Hard mulligan for it. And after we sack the Majin Quickening, these are the targets we are looking for. We're running 4 total. We have 3 Majin Buu looking for a fight. He's deflect, and when you play him, you can KO something 4 or less. And then we have Majin Buu Ghastly Energy here, who's barrier, and he can take a marker off of Unison. So depending on your matchup, typically you want to play this guy. If you're ever playing against green and they played Migra turn 1, you want to go for this guy. If you want to play this in a best of 3 event, I would recommend siding more of these. This deck is built for a best of 1 event, so keep that in mind. Ultimately, you want to go for this guy because he will trigger Surprise Attack Frieza. Okay, this is the only card in the deck that will actually KO by a skill, which will trigger this. Otherwise, you're going to have to swing into a card in order to play this. Typically, I just use them as energy if I can't KO something with this. He can also be good just to dump on an additional 10k on one of your double strike attacks to make sure it goes through. So these are 3 drops. And then with the 3 drop, you're going to use this 3-star ball, Parasitic Darkness, and you need to see these in hand. You need at least 1 in hand. And what you do with it is you put it under the 3-drop Buu, and then you can search your deck for a 5 or less Majin Buu Xeno. Okay? And it can come from your hand as well. It's important to note. It's either your deck or your hand, right? So the Quickening can play cards from either your deck or your drop. So if you have one of the 3 drops underneath the field spell and you send it to the drop and you don't have one in deck, you can still just play one from the drop. So keep that in mind. The ball will play it from either your deck or your hand, and this is the target we're going for here. This is the new 4-drop Buu from the new Toa Ultimate deck. This card is absolutely disgusting. I love this card. He is unique with Barrier, and he's got an auto once per turn that when he's played, you can look at the top 7, and you can play Dark Broly, not relevant, we don't play those, or you can play up to 1 non-black battle card with Xeno in its character name and an energy cost of 9 or less. And if you are familiar with the Majin Buu line that the Vegeta deck was running before, we're playing the 7-drop. Okay? So, we're taking out the early consistency of the old chain, right? The old chain played the 5-drop with the ball, and then you would pay 1 green to X-Evolve over the 5-drop. It was okay, but I find this to be so much better. I find that high-risk, high-reward decks seem to really pay off if you can get everything you need. This deck worked really well for me last night. I didn't whiff a single time with the 4-drop. And that is because of a certain tech card I will show you right after this. But this card will play this, so ultimately you're getting 2 bodies on field instead of just evolving and having one tall character, right? So you get a 20k swing, and then you get 2 25k double strike swings because he has dual attack. So ultimately that's 5 damage you're pushing through on this, which was free. And you can also attack with the 3-drop if it's safe. You need to know your matchups and know when it's okay and not okay to attack. So the 4-drop will play the 7-drop, right? And if this card is in rest mode, his bottom auto here says when your opponent attacks a leader card, they choose 2 cards in their hand and discard them. Really, really, really good. If you can't seem to kill them on the turn that you get this off, this card will probably buy you another turn or 2. It really saved me last night in a few games, and the card's nuts. So the 7-drop is double strike, dual attack, and if he's removed by a skill, you get to play a 3-drop and get the ball back. So ultimately you get to just kind of do this again. But you have to keep in mind he does have unique, so you can't have multiple of these out. You either need to combo him off or do something I will show you in a minute. So the tech here, we need to thin out the deck as much as possible with this card. Right. So Quickening, when it's on field, every time we take a life, we put a card underneath. And one thing we can do is take as much life as possible with Quickening before we send it to the drop to thin the deck out even more. And then when we're finally down to 3-2 life, that's the optimal time to finally sack the Quickening. Because at that point, you're going to have maybe 20 cards left in your deck, 25 cards. And if you see a bunch of 7-drops in hand, you can combo them off. But if the 7-drops go under the field spell, you might think, oh boy, now we're in trouble. I've only got 2 left in the deck. They're all in the drop area now. So this old set 7 card, TN here, this card says that when you combo with him, you can discard a card, right? And when you do, you can choose one of 2 effects. And the first effect is the relevant one here. We're going to choose up to 3 battle cards with energy cost of 3 or more and 35,000 or less power in our drop and place them at the bottom of our deck. So if we have 3 7-drops in our drop area, we can put them back at the bottom of the deck. Doesn't shuffle, but that's okay because the chain itself will shuffle, right? So this card can help fuel, and you just put 7 drops back. Don't put any other cards back. But if you put the 3 7 drops at the bottom of the deck, and then when you play the ball to play the 4 drop, right, this will shuffle your deck. And make sure you shuffle it good and get them all randomized so you're not stuck with 3 in a chunk somewhere. But get all 4 back in the deck, and then you have 4 cards out of, 26, 27 cards, whatever you have. So your odds are going to be really high of hitting the 7 drop off the 4 drop because of this card. So this is also really good. His other effect isn't super relevant, but you can, when you pitch a card, you can put a battle card from your opponent's drop back in their deck. Kind of good against like Cinch Enron. If they play the 9 drop, you can, as you're swinging into the 9 drop to remove it, you can get rid of the 1 drop to make sure that they can't go back up their chain again. So pretty good card. So next up we've got the 1 drop package. We've got 2 Dodorias, 2 Zarbuto, and 4 Prince of Destruction Vegeta Evil Awaken. This is the tournament pack card. Essentially, these all do the same thing. This guy just has Servant. This guy was pretty expensive for a while, but he's been coming down in price now. If you don't have access to him, you could just run 4 Dodoria, 4 Zarbuto. It wouldn't be quite as optimal, but it would still get the job done. This card is good because it has Servant, so after you swing with it, you play it, and it's got an on-play auto to take a life versus Zarbuto and Dodoria, who say that you take a life on attack. So Vegeta, you can play him, take a life, give him double strike, swing with him, use your leader effect, Overlord, put him at the bottom of the deck, and then play him again, take another life, and swing for another double strike. Really good at thinning the deck out before you sack the field spell. Get as many cards under the field spell as possible, thin out the deck, increase your chances. So we want to make sure that most of our attacks are double strike. We want to go in for as much damage as we possibly can. And this deck currently, I believe, has a 22 damage turn 2 ceiling. Is what we're aiming to do is 22 damage on turn 2. So these guys really help enable it. I get really, really aggressive with taking life and go down really, really low. And that's part of the way we do it. The leader has Self-Awakening built in, and you can even take life on the Awaken side still to give them double strike. So plenty of ways to take life. And our other Vegeta, Prince of Destruction Vegeta, Life and Death. He's a 3 drop with double strike and Servant. And he says when your opponent activates a counter skill, switch this card to active mode once per turn. So this is probably the best card to play off of the bottom of the deck, right? 30k double strike. If they negate it, you just get to swing again. Sounds like a great deal to me. I would probably bump this up to 4 going forward, but there are a few changes I would make to the list, but so far this list has been testing really well. So this is our number 1 way to put this Vegeta at the bottom of the deck. This Great Saiyaman here is super combo. If all your energy is green, your life's at 4 or less, you combo. He gets plus 10,000. You put a card from your hand at the bottom of your deck, draw 2 cards. This is definitely the card we want to put at the bottom. Put him at the bottom, draw 2 cards, use the leader to pay 1 to play him. Fantastic combo. It's very easy to get to 4 life in this deck. And then next up, our Overwhelm package. Like I said, we're trying to do a turn 2 kill. We want to be really, really aggressive. Ultimately, you could play Bardock, Awaken Instincts, who the channel's actually named after. But Sun Goten Charging History has a similar effect to pitch this Beerus to put him into play. If you don't know what this guy does, he's been around for a while. He's a set 8 card, but anytime he's discarded or placed in the drop area from your battle, or placed in your drop from your hand by a battle card, you can play him. So it has to be something on field. It can't be a cost to play a card. But is an effect like this that says choose one card in your hand and discard it, switch to active mode. You pitch this guy, and he comes into play, and then you can attack with Goten again. Ultimately, you're getting 3 damage for 0 energy for your overwhelm. And if you don't see Goten, you just charge this or use a 0+5. Essentially, we want to run Beerus because if you didn't notice from the math here, between the 4-drop and the 7-drop, if you have these guys on field, and keep in mind your Babidi from turn 1 will also probably still also be on field, that's an easy 12. You know we love to play for 12. This guy. Best secret rare in the game, in my opinion. Still, hands down, this card is nuts. Very easy to get out in this deck. And even on turn 2, you know, after you've swung with your 25k double strike 7-drop, you know, 2 times, you put on a lot of pressure. If they're down to 4 or 2 life at that point, and you slap this down, it's going to be a really, really rough time for them. Especially if they try and negate or counterplay this. You know, if you still have Vegeta out, you can restand them. And it's really easy to get lots of energy on field to enable this guy. Super good. If you get to 5 energy, he can rip 3 cards and he gets dual attack. Won me the finals last night against Sin Shenron. He only had 3 cards left in hand and just the blocker on field. Not the 9-drop, the Omega blocker. But it was enough to seal the game and win the tournament for me. And I won a God Pack in my winnings, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, the deck felt really strong. I think I would make some slight changes going forward, but overall, felt really great. Shout out to Frank Castle on the Vegeta Saiyan Army Facebook group for bringing to light the TN tech. Really helps increase the consistency of the deck, and I hope this will encourage you all to have some fun and play some Dragon Ball Super. Alright, peace out.